And the Red Sox actually have a better road record this year than they do home record. So, interesting games there. Moving on to the Central. As we just said, the Twins, they lead the division by 10 games, and they're going to play Boston to begin the week. Cleveland is 10 games out. The White Sox 13 games out. Cleveland has won 3 in a row. And as I said earlier, Trevor Bauer with the big 8-0 shutout. And now Cleveland heads to Texas for 3 games. Beginning today, they're at Texas. And it'll be interesting to see how that series goes for both ball clubs, right? All right. The American League West, it's about the same, guys, as it's been over the last couple of weeks. Houston with a big lead. They're 48-24. They have a 9.5 game lead over Texas. They have a 12-game lead over Oakland and a 13-game lead over the Angels. Now, I always like to say if the season ended today. Well, if the season ended today, the Red Sox and Rangers are both 5 games over 500 and in a virtual tie for that final wild card spot. However, there's another mover here. Only a half a game behind them for the wild card race are the Cleveland Indians. I say that because when you're in the playoff hunt, and the Indians are, you can look for some potential moves. As long as Cleveland is in the race, I don't think they're trading starting line pitching. I just don't. That's their strong. Why would you take away your strong suit to get weaker in your strong area? I don't see the Cleveland Indians doing that. So talk about trading Bauer or any other pitcher may have been premature. Probably just, on my part, it was only speculation. But the longer Cleveland stays in the race, and remember, this year the trade deadline is July 31st. So we're just, 5 or 6 weeks away from the trade deadline. Going over to the National League, and I've been telling you, this is the Braves, the National League East, their division to win. They're 9-1 over their last 10 games. They now lead the Phillies by 2.5 games, the largest lead they've had all season. A trouncing of Philadelphia yesterday, and here you go. Love these division games. Beginning today, the Braves are home against the Mets, and the Phillies are at Washington. So your top 4 teams, and the Mets are 7.5 out, and the Nationals are 8.5 out. Both the Mets and the Nationals are playing below 500 baseball. And so these games that they're playing now against the top 2 teams, the Mets are playing in Atlanta, that's 1 playing 3. Phillies are playing Washington, that's 2 playing 4. If the Mets in Washington were to get swept by either Atlanta or both Philadelphia, that could certainly would put both teams 10 games or more out of first place. Okay? And so these are huge games this first part of the week for both the Mets and the Nats. Atlanta's hot. Their offense is clicking. Their pitching is good. I'll look for Atlanta to take care of business against the Mets. The Phillies and the Nats, it's up for grabs. The Phillies pitching is just garbage except for just a few, okay? So look for Matt Adams. He's a great fantasy ad. We're going to talk about him in a few minutes statistic-wise, too. He's going to face 6 right-handers this week. Only 1 lefty, and they play the Nationals 7 games this week. If Matt Adams is available in your league, go get him now. Stop what you're doing. Don't listen to me any longer. Go get Matt Adams. He drove in 7 yesterday. He hit 2 home runs. He's hot. He's facing right-handed pitchers. He's a guy you got to own if he's available. Put him as a utility. I don't care where you put him. You got to have somebody on your team who's not performing that you're tired of looking at. Matt Adams this week is a great ad. Okay, Central. Love it. You know I love the Central. The Brewers have a 1-game lead over the Cubs. They have a 3.5 game lead over the Redbirds from St. Louis and an 8-game lead over both the Reds and the Pirates. All right, run differential. You know I talk about this a lot. The largest run differential in the Central Division of the National League is clearly the Cubs with a plus 61. The second greatest run differential is the Reds with a plus 38. And then the Brewers and the Cardinals both at plus 12. Okay? So, again, I put credence on that because if you're scoring a lot more runs than other teams, you're typically winning more games than other teams. Now, the Reds are the exception, But that's why I still think in Cincinnati they will not finish in last place this year. And I don't think the Reds win the division. I've said that over and over. But I think they move up in the standings. Pittsburgh's going to finish last in that division. Write it down. Write it down. I said it. Okay. It's going to happen. In the National League West, the Dodgers just continue to roll. A 111 run differential. Wow. The Dodgers are 28-8 at home. They're 20-16 on the road. So if you're going to get them, you better get them on the road. But guess what? Now they come home and they are playing the Giants at home. That rivalry continues. I wonder if anything will happen between Muncy and any Giant pitcher. Keep your eye on that one. You never know. Bumgarner and Muncy got into it. You know, the Dodgers were in San Francisco last weekend. He hits a home run into McCovey Cove. And then Bumgarner follows him around the bases, jawing at him. That was stupid, right? But he did. And Muncy said, if you don't want me to hit the ball in the water and look at it, go get the ball out of the water, whatever. But we'll see if there's any extenuated drama in the form of hit batters or fisticuffs. Those are the things that make baseball really interesting, right? Don't you love that kind of stuff? The intrigue and the drama of when batters get hit with balls. Oh, my gosh, bring it on, right? And the Dodgers, though, they are in first place, firmly entrenched in first place. Colorado, 10.5 games out. Arizona, 10.5 games out. San Diego, 13 games out. The Giants, again, go to L.A. The Colorado Rockies, they travel to Arizona for a 3-game set. And the Padres are at home against the Brewers. And that's a look at the standings this Monday morning. Woo! Lot going on, huh? Games today. There are 12 games on the slate. Let's go through those. And I'm going to start, and first of all, I'll tell you, there are no afternoon games this Monday. Okay, so the first pitch tonight, Yankee Stadium, the Rays and the Yankees, Chirinos and Tanaka. At 7:05 in Washington, Arrieta for the Phillies, 6-5 against Corbin, 5-5. At 7:07, the Angels are in Toronto. The Angels have yet to name a starter. Edwin Jackson is starting for Toronto, 1-4 with a 10.22 ERA. At 7:10 tonight at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati, the Astros and Wade Miley, 6-3, 3.14 ERA, head off against Castillo for the Reds, 6-1 with a 2.20 ERA. In Atlanta tonight, the Mets, Wheeler, 5-4, 4.87 ERA against, you ready? Mike Soroka, 7-1, 1.92 ERA. That game's at 7:20. At 8:05 tonight, Cleveland is in Texas. Clevenger returns from the IL. Yeah, let's hear it for Clevenger. He hurt his back, who was having a great year. And now he's off the IL, starting tonight for Cleveland. I talked about it earlier. They're in the hunt, and now they get an ace-type arm back to pitch in Texas. Well, maybe that's not so great. But Clevenger is. And so watch that one tonight. Let's see how Clevenger pitches as he squares off against Lance Lynn at 8:05 in Arlington. At 8:10, the Red Sox are in Minnesota. Rick Porcello against Berrios. Porcello 4-6, Berrios 8-2, and that game again is at 8:10 tonight. Miami Marlins are in St. Louis. Hernandez from Miami against Miles Michaelis, who has pitched horribly of late. I'm looking for Cooper in that one. I'm looking for Ramirez in that one to really hit the ball. And also a sneaky pick, Curtis Granderson, if you're in daily, against Miles Michaelis tonight in St. Louis. At 10:07, now we're going to deal with 4 West Coast games. At 10:07 tonight, the Orioles are in Oakland. Cashner, 6-2. Yes, an Oriole pitcher who's 6-2 against Mike. Bring on the Fires, 6-3. That game's at 10:07 from the Oakland Coliseum. Kansas City and Danny Duffy invade Seattle and Malone. There ought to be some runs scored in that one at 10:10. Milwaukee, Chacin against Lucchesi in San Diego. 5-4 is Lucchesi. 3-7 is Chacin. And finally tonight, Beatty for the Giants against Kenta Maeda for the Dodgers. That's at 10:10 from Dodger Stadium. Kenta Maeda is 7-3 with a 3.89 ERA. All right, we're still rolling. Time-wise, perfect. My segment, I'm right on time here. So now we're going to talk about Hitters to watch today, I'm going to look at sample size of 10 at-bats or more. I'm not even going to talk about anything. I tell you what, if they've got a walk, I will. Otherwise, if it isn't 10 at-bats, unless they've got 9 at-bats with some walks, I'll do it. Okay, first game I'll look at today, Phillies and the Nationals. Arrieta for the Phillies, Patrick Corbin for the Nationals. Okay, so Nationals batters that I like today against Arrieta. First of all, I've already told you, if you can get Matt Adams in your league, go get him. Not only did he hit 2 home runs yesterday and he's hot, he's also 9 for 25 with a home run off of Arrieta in his career. That's a .360 average. Brian Dozier, he's hitting .444 off of Arrieta. Adam Eaton, 5 for 18. That's .333. Anthony Rendon, 4 for 15. That's .267. I like those 4 bats for the Nationals today. They're guys that I think you got to have if you're playing daily. All right. For the Phillies against Patrick Corbin, Bryce Harper, actually, this will surprise you, lefty on lefty. He is 5 for 13 in his career off of Corbin. That's a .385 average. But the player I love the most off Corbin is Gene Segura. Yeah, Gene Segura is 7 for 11 in his career. That is a .636 average off Patrick Corbin. Go get him if he's available for daily purposes today. Start Segura for sure. He's a gotta-have against the Nationals. All right, the Yankees and the Rays. Yanni Chirinos. Not enough sample size there, folks. Okay, but Tanaka's pitched a lot against the Rays. Tommy Pham, 4 for 11 with a home run, .364 average. G-Man Choi, 4 for 11, .364 average. Mike Zunino, 5 for 16. If he's starting today at catcher, 1 home run, .312 average. Kevin Kiermaier, 8 for 28. Double, triple, home run, .286 average off of Tanaka. And finally, Avisail Garcia, 5 for 18. That's a .278 average off of Masahiro Tanaka. The Angels are in Toronto. Told you that's a tasty-looking little plate there. And here's the player to watch in this game against Edwin Jackson. Of course, there's always Mike Trout. And I've told you about Goodwin, but here's another one. Jonathan Lucroy. He is 12 for 32 in his career off Edwin Jackson. And let me also say, the Edwin Jackson of 2019 is the worst version you'll ever get. Not that he was ever great. He did throw a no-hitter in his career. I think he threw like 149 pitches in pitching a no-hitter. I think he walked like 7 or 8, but he threw a no-hitter. But the version in 2019 of Edwin Jackson is the worst version you could ever have in fantasy. Jonathan Lucroy is 12 for 32 off of him in his career. A couple of homers, a couple of doubles. That's a .375 average. And in daily fantasy today, when I pick my catcher, I'm picking Jonathan Lucroy against the Blue Jays. Houston's in Cincinnati. No real sample size for the Astro Bats, but how about the Reds against Wade Miley? And how about if I offer to you a player I told you went 2 for 3 yesterday, Yasiel Puig, who's starting to heat up. He's 6 for 17, a homer. He's hitting .353 in his career with a 1.051 OPS off of Wade Miley. I'm liking that. The Mets are in Atlanta. And I told you earlier how much I like Freddie Freeman. Well, against Zach Wheeler in his career, he is 10 for 20 with 3 doubles and 2 home runs. That's a .500 average, a 1.617 OPS. You got to have Freddie Freeman. If you can get Freddie Freeman in daily today, okay, I would look forward to that. You got a really good start to winning some money today in daily fantasy if that's what you're into. And he's certainly a player that you need to add. Now, Tyler Flowers has had 10 at-bats against Zach Wheeler, 5 hits, a home run. That's a .500 average, right? So those are 2 guys that you may want to look at adding today in the Brave Met game. The Indians are in Texas, as I told you. And I've looked at that one. There's not enough sample size to give you on any recommendation for batters in that game. Boston's in Minnesota. Porcello pitching for Boston. Several bats here that you want to consider for Minnesota. Jason Castro, if he's